We know most of the traditions at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, obviously. But on this episode of Behind the Bricks, we look at a tradition that maybe some are not so aware of, right, Zach?
Yeah, so I think what's so cool about this episode is, you know, so much about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is just kind of there, and you don't really know why, but you love it, and you don't want it to go away. And this is one of those really cool examples of, you know, people walk in race morning, they see how pit lane is designed, and they love it, and that's been a part of their life for, you know, so many years, but you don't know that it's actually been there since the beginning. And honestly, we didn't even know that when we started doing this episode.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, you know, I think Doug and I have always just sort of been interested in what the thought process was and how those pit lane stencils sort of ended up being that way. And then we dug in and we realized that you know, from 1911 to 2010, these were hand painted.
That's amazing.
On the walls in the week leading up to the race, and then you know, in 2010 we sort of modernized it a little bit and made it more like a decal. But it kept, you know, the same, you know, iteration and that piece of tradition. And this episode really highlights, you know, why we did that and what we do and why it's so important to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
One of the things I love about that is, and you were kind of talking about it, people showed up and we see it and we go, oh, that's great. But you kind of lose track that started in 1911. Like, that's insanity.
And it's, you know, I'm sure in 1911 it was literally just to designate who was pitting where. There was no sentiment behind it, and then it just sort of stayed throughout the years, and it changed a little bit. And now we've never once thought about changing, because it's what we've always done. And we know that our fans will go crazy if we ever try to change it. And it's just one of those weird things about the Speedway that makes, you know, part of the experience. And it feels a little old, and it feels a little retro. It feels, you know, a little bit historic, and it's just one of those things about the Speedway that you would never think about.
We have a quick clip about this from Doug Bowles. Take a look.
So we're now inside behind turn 3, and this is where the magic happens. Those names that you see on the wall, they start right here on this vinyl machine. I'm with Kyle Knight, who's our graphics production lead here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We trust him to do thousands of signs that you see around the Speedway, but maybe the most fun job you have is getting to print these wall signs.
Of course. It's a really cool collaborative effort, too, because we pull in folks from facilities, folks from our marketing team, social team. They'll usually come out and try and capture a little bit here and there. So it's really fun to get a group of people out there to really pull this thing off and make sure it turns out exactly how we're looking for.
And then the font size is the same.
The wild thing about that, too, and last year's race really was kind of a pinpoint to this, but for a focal point, you need to see where people are going.
Exactly.
Because that pit lane is a massive part of the race as to when people are coming in, when they shouldn't be coming in, all of that.
Well, and what's interesting, too, is, you know, obviously it's for the fans. They see it. They know who's pitting where. But the drivers, I mean, you know, they can see that, they can read. They certainly know where their pit is, but they don't know where everyone else's is. So you see that, you know, as they're driving down. And what this little clip highlights, I think is really cool, is all of these are done in-house now.
Yeah.
We have our own sign shop. It's located just outside turn 3. We make them all ourselves. We install them all ourselves. This year, it took the team 38 minutes to install all of the pit lanes. So that's 40. That's 33 pit stalls, 40 feet of decal per pit stall, and they installed it all in 38 minutes. They have it down to an absolute science.
The cool thing about having it right there in the backyard, too, is if something were to go wrong and you need to redo it, you're right there. You can go do it real quick and replace it.
Exactly. Well, and another you know, example that this episode indirectly highlighted was, you know, obviously Stephen Wilson had his crash. Graham Ray Hall had to fill in his place. So we had to make a Graham Ray Hall pit lane stencil unexpectedly. And then Ryan Hunter Ray brought on a sponsor late, and they wanted that on the pit lane wall, so we had to remake that as well. So, you know, these are always being made late in the game, but we have that ability to do that because we make them in-house.
Such an interesting bit. You guys are always so great at finding things behind the bricks for us to learn about, and I love it. How many episodes are left? Not many, right? Or do you take a break?
Yeah, we're going to take a break for Brickyard. We have Brickyard next weekend. We'll take a few weeks off, and then we'll kind of close out the rest of the season this fall.
Awesome. Zach, thank you as always, man.
It's always a pleasure.